The laziest, oh man, they are. It's hard. Eh? It's hard to pinpoint one, and it'd be unfair of me to note somebody because through that I think they know themselves that they maybe would like a second chance, but it's really hard to pinpoint one. There's one that stands out for me, but he's actually a current NRL coach, so I can't comment on it. Because I'll throw him under the bus and all the other players will rip him.
Was there make without laziness, someone who just hated training? Because I know Anthony Watmo a couple of times just said, I love game day, but I'll do anything to get out of training.
Oh man, the hardest is pre-season, I can speak of even myself. There's sometimes where I just I don't want to go to training today because you're training 6 days of the week. Your 7th day is a day off just to recover from the 6 days training, and there isn't anything really what you look forward to at the end of the week. So through the season you're training in preparation for a game, and the game is the bonus. That's what we love and what we essentially get paid for, and basically what we love doing. So when you're training in pre-season, you're just getting flogged for 8 weeks, and there's no fun in that, and that's what it's about. But we also understand that it's an important part of preparing for an upcoming season. So I can say myself as well in light training sometimes.
Beryl, this one's directed at you, part of the Queensland Fibers 2015 and 16 premierships.
Yeah.
It's part of Mitch's research, so well done. I remember watching the first of those grand finals with my mum and dad. My brothers were around. We're at mum and dad's house, and just being on the edge of our seat throughout that, and then 2016 as well. What was that like?
I think when you're in those situations, it's almost like you're having an out-of-body experience, because there was, I think, 11,000 people in there, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's an indoor stadium and everyone's crammed, it's so loud, we couldn't hear each other talking. So you couldn't communicate being like, yeah, I'm open. You had to physically use hand signals and stuff. Also, we played them at Boonville Entertainment Centre, and that's obviously where a lot of artists go to perform, like Beyonce, Justin Bieber, whatever. And the staff came back and told us the next day that they record the sound after every concert, and they said that sound that they heard in our first grand final was the loudest they've ever recorded. Which is louder than when anyone else has walked out on stage. And I just can't describe that feeling, because obviously pre-season is hard, and then just going through all those rounds, going to New Zealand pretty much every second weekend, just constantly being tired, and then for all that hard work to pay off was just amazing. But then this second year when we won and it went into double overtime,
yeah, that one.
Because I was sitting on the bench and I was so nervous that I was chewing my fingernails down so much that they were bleeding, and I was just I couldn't shake people's hands afterwards, so I got blood on my fingers from chewing them. And then I couldn't believe that we won, particularly because our shooter, Romelda Aiken, she would tell you herself, she had the yips, so she was missing most of them. And every time she shot it, I was just please go in, please.
And she hardly shows emotion.
No, she never shows
whether
emotion.
She got it in or not.
And then there was a point where I think there was 2 minutes to go, and the girl in the other team had an opportunity to shoot to win the game. And we were if she gets us in, this is over. And then she just missed it. And we were just oh my god, wow. Looking back at it now, it still gives me goosebumps.
I was going to say, this is the sport nerd that I am. I've actually got goosebumps under my shirt. I remember jumping around the lounge room, watching that, and you couldn't hear the whistle
you couldn't hear anything, we couldn't understand what was happening. But I think looking back now, I don't think we knew the impact that we had on women's sport at the time. Because since then, I don't want to say it was all us, because obviously it wasn't, but since then women's sport has really grown to be more professional, and I think having those close grand finals really drew more media and attention from a mainstream audience to women's sport.
Definitely. We've got Sunshine Coast Lightning now out of the university. I've tried for the 3-4 years now and I still haven't got a ticket. So if you're not a member there, you can't get a ticket. It's sold out before the season starts every year. It's so popular. Anything else from you, Mitch?
Well, just going back to before what Scotty said, I relate a lot to the giving everything a go with sports. I've tried heaps of them. I focused on soccer mainly, and now playing rugby union for the school. And you also kind of almost answered it before, but to be a professional sports person, we hear a lot about sacrifices that you have to make. But what was the defining moment or sacrifice that you kind of made in your mind before you went to basically play for the Cowboys?
I think the big one that stands out is leaving home at such an early age. Like I got picked up on a scholarship and I had to leave home at the age of 15, just turning 16. So that was probably the hardest and first real hurdle and challenge and sacrifice I had to make, was leaving the comfort of home and my surroundings and where I felt really, really comfortable, was to move to a town or a city in Townsville, go to a new school, and albeit I lived with my auntie, but it still just wasn't home for me. So I'm not ashamed to say that I cried, most of the time, in terms of cried myself to sleep for about the first 6 months. And when I went home for school holidays, I didn't want to get back on the plane, but I knew that to reach my goal was to become a professional NRL player. That was one sacrifice I had to make. So, and then as you get older, and then certain challenges where your mates are going out living their life of a 17, 18-year-old, you just have to sort of weigh up what the best pathway to go. And I'm not saying that I didn't choose that line of going out and partying, but I also had to make a decision whether that's the right way of going about, whether my career could be cut short to 2 years or I could make 16 years of this. So yeah, you're always constantly making sacrifices every day, every week. So it's really, really important to keep your eyes on the prize.
On sacrifices, Beryl, most significant hurdle you had to overcome to get to where you got to in your sporting career?
Yeah, so I'm a bit like Princey. So I grew up in a small country town, maybe like 3,000 people in far north Queensland. And I just knew the environment that I grew up in. Like, I'm not saying it was me and my family, but the kind of community I saw, particularly for Indigenous women, was just like a lot of domestic violence, alcohol, drug abuse, that kind of thing. And so I knew that I wanted a better life for myself, and netball was probably going to be my ticket out of there.
Yeah.
So for me going to boarding school, that was a hard thing to do because I have no family in Brisbane. I didn't have anyone even remotely close. Like, I think the closest family I had was in Townsville, which is still ages away. And then going to a prestigious all-girls private boarding school was a massive culture shock. But looking back, I can honestly say I was never homesick. I was just like, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to win a premiership with the Flyers. I knew that when I was 11. So for me, leaving home was just like, well, this is a stepping stone, I don't know how much to do, and I just did it.
Doubled up too.
Yeah, doubled up, back to back.
So that's pretty much going to do us. I'm going to try and get a juicy answer out of Scotty before we finish. You played for the Cowboys, Broncos and Titans. I still think you're the only player who's played for all three Queensland clubs.
Current clubs, yeah.
Who were you going for in the 2015 grand final? Because I was there and it was mayhem. And my brother and I were going for the Cowboys, surrounded by Broncos players, as supporters.
Who was I going for? I was going for the Broncos.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, I was going for the Broncos, but being a Cowboys junior, I know how much it would have meant to the Cowboys supporters, and I was a part of why they lost in 05 against the Tigers.
Yeah, I remember that as a Cowboys supporter.
Yeah, so I had a lot of people who hated me or wouldn't forgive me for that time. So I knew how much they'd worked and how much they needed it, and had waited such a long time to get one. So I was more than happy that they got their win in 15.
So I just want to thank you guys for your time and awesome answers and your generosity and everything. And on the Indigenous theme for Indigenous Round NRL, also want to congratulate Scotty, one of only 5 Indigenous players in history to have played 300 games in the NRL. So
well done.
Well done.
Wow.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Beautiful. Thank you. Awesome.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whew. I host a rugby league podcast just in my free time, me and a mate, and we do